Hello and welcome to the second ever edition of the Top Dogs and Eye on the Storm crossover podcast. And my name is Rob Dauster. I got David Barov here with me. And David, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I really considered like just bailing on you on this because I'm a little too superstitious for my own good. And the last time we did this, it was a pretty ugly experience to go to
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden on my end and see that happen. So I really thought about just being like, yeah, fuck this David guy, man. I'm done. I'm done with this dude. So it is good to see you again. I am
Yeah.
excited about this matchup that we have going on because it's nice to have a rivalry again that really kind of gets the blood boiling and makes you it's the butterflies before the game, man. It's been a while since I felt that about a UConn team and a UConn rivalry, but you got to go in a little bit here. So,
Yeah.
first and foremost, man, how you doing, man? You survived the
Oh
snow?
man. Oh man. Yeah. You and I both, man. We got crushed here on the East Coast. We survived. Only thing keeping me warm is the just the thinking about Patino Hurley Part 2 on Wednesday night. Rob, I don't, we set the table on February 4th, I think, when we first recorded, and then we saw each other at the game. We're like, oh, we got to do it again for the next one that was before St. John's won, and then, you know,
It
I was
seemed
like,
like such a good idea at the time, and now it's like, man,
I,
I
I
can't
was I
believe it.
was ready to go. I
Oh.
know everybody was like, "Hey, Dave, you're gonna do it again with Rob?" I'm like, I hope so. But then, um, but look, Rob, when we set up that first one, right? It was biggest game that you could ask for. Everything kind of lined up perfectly, and then St. John's wins, and I think that's what actually was needed in this, let's say, storyline and what was needed for the Big East and frankly for the country. Because like, if St. John's didn't win that game, you set up like UConn running away with things, and like the Big East maybe not being that interesting. Now there's actually a two-horse race. St. John's is in first place right now, and you set up UConn number 6, St. John's number 15. It's a top 15 matchup. Everybody's going to be watching again. And there's so much on the line again. St. John's has won 13 straight.
Mhm.
UConn has won 26 straight in Hartford. St. John's is 8-0 on the road this year in the Big East. And the last team to beat UConn at People's Bank Arena, aka the XL Center, is who? St. John's on January 15th, 2023, when Mike Anderson took the Johnnies and somehow got an 85-74 win. There's so much going into this game. I mean, if St. John's gets the win, they could potentially put a stranglehold and look at the back-to-back Big East Conference titles. I mean, and if not, then hey, we're full steam ahead for a third matchup, possibly in the Big East tournament.
I
I'm
hope
like,
we get that, man. I hope we get
it's
that. Like,
listen,
selfishly,
if they don't, like that's a pretty big upset.
selfishly, right? And I'm going to go ahead and say that
Yeah,
the best thing, big picture for the public at large,
yeah.
is for UConn to win this game, for St. John's and UConn to share the Big East regular season title, and for them to get to the Big East tournament championship game and have that be for all the marbles, right? You know what? Here's what we're gonna, if that happens, we're gonna put this on it too. Like whoever wins that also gets the Big East regular season championship. I don't know if
Yeah,
we can actually do that,
probably.
but I think we need to be able to find a way to make that
Yeah.
happen. Play for all the marbles because Patino, Hurley, St. John's, UConn, the Garden, Store South, whatever you guys call it,
Hey, Dan
whatever.
Hurley said it's not Store South anymore.
Oh, it was not in that building on it
You're
was not
damn
on
right.
February 6th. It absolutely was not. So it's for everything, it's just that would be
Yeah.
incredible to watch. Before we get in the actual preview, I got a little trivia question for you.
Mhm.
And I would be remiss if I did not say this for all the UConn fans that are going to be listening to this. Do you know what happened the last time that St. John's beat UConn in the Civic Center? What happened at the end of that season? Do you remember?
What happened?
UConn won a championship.
Oh,
UConn cut down the nets in where was that? Was that Houston? I think that was Houston. So no, all right, let's get into this actual matchup itself because I think the uh the thing that makes me more nervous than anything else when it comes to this matchup is what St. John's is currently doing defensively. Like
yeah.
they have turned into the team that we thought they were going to be at the start of the year, and it's impressive. It's scary. It's they can be overwhelming at times. I think Dylan Darling, like he's just such an X factor, man. Like he's one of those guys where like you play against him, and I gotta imagine it's the most annoying thing in the world. Like you're just thinking about how like can I just hit this guy with an elbow in the face? Like can I
Hmm.
get hit him in the nuts? Like what a pain in the ass he is. I think that's the biggest compliment that you can give to a player is that he's a pain in the ass. But for me, that's what this
Punchable
is going to
face,
him.
right?
Yeah, dude, he's got a punchable face. He plays in such a punchable way. Like, and I would love to have him. I
Yeah.
just you got to love that dude. But big picture, what do you make of this defense and kind of where has this growth come
Yeah.
from?
Rob, I actually think you kind of nailed it. Like Dylan Darling has actually been part of that because you're able to take a like pit bull guard off the bench, and he's listed at 6'1". Who knows if that's really accurate, but he makes up for his stature the way a St. John's guard is supposed to, and that's just toughness. He's not going to let you get to where you need to go without a fight. He will take a charge. He will get that Jose Alvarado steal, which he's making look,
So
that's like
annoying,
his
man.
move in
It's so
MSG,
annoying.
man. Like he's just been so tough, and he's really defensively has been such a catalyst because St. John's guards, while they have improved a little bit on defense, Ian Jackson has been doing the little things to, to stay on the court, whether it's getting rebounds, boxing out, and things like that. Joson Sanders been a little bit better at that, but like when Rick Pitino can look at the bench and be like, "Hey, Dylan, get in there for 28 minutes," and he is able to just spearhead the top of that defense, it's incredible. And then, somebody that we talked about on the February 6th show, Dylan Mitchell is still just the most incredible do-it-all player, and
Mhm.
he might not score the ball and he can't really shoot it, but he can do everything else. And it starts with his defense because he could switch 1 through 5. And the last time we spoke, one of the big questions was like, what is UConn going to do? How can they combat St. John's physicality in the paint versus the front court? And the answer was they had no answer. They couldn't. So for me, the biggest question is like, all right, well, how's it going to change in this game? What is UConn going to try and do differently in this game? Because in that first game, the combo of Bryce Hopkins, Zuby Ejiofor, and Dylan Mitchell had like the most insane stat line that you could have ask for: 50 points, 22 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 blocks, 4 steals. They got to the line 21 times. Each guy played 33 minutes. What are you going to do now to take those guys away?
So the where I would push back on that is I think that if you give up 14 and 6 to Bryce and 15 and 6 to Dylan Mitchell, I think if you're UConn, you live with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the flip side is, Braylon Mullins was able to get loose a little bit. And Alex Caravan had one of his best offensive games that you had in a while, and that's kind of the cross match there, right? Like they kind of even each other out. And then Zuby's just Zuby. Like when he has a game like that, there's only so much you're going to be able to do, right? There's a reason why he was the reigning Big East Player of the Year, and there's a reason why he entered the season as an All American. Like,
Yeah.
you 20, what was it? 21, 10, 7 assists,
7 assists, two
3 blocks,
steals,
two
three
steals. Like,
blocks. Yeah.
there's going to be nights where the best players on the floor are going to play like the best player on the floor
Mm-hmm.
and go out and win you a game, and you just got to deal with that. And to be honest, I thought that the issue that UConn had, it wasn't them. I thought that they were able to kind of nullify that, and well, nullify it's the wrong way to phrase it. It was they were able to balance it out with the advantage that they had on the other end of the floor with
Yeah.
Dylan trying to chase around shooters coming off of screens and Alex Caravan being able to take advantage of some of the things that Bryce Hopkins struggles with defensively. To me, the issue was the best player on the floor for UConn, and that was Silas Emery.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because there were at least four that I can remember off the top of my head, turnovers that led directly to layups, right? That were the momentum killers, that were the kind of plays where when it happens and you get the layup at the other end of the floor, there's just nothing that you're able to do about it.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the entire key of this game, right? Like we saw it a little bit against Villanova. Silas really, I think he had 7 turnovers against Villanova.
Yeah.
And if he is going to be that loose with the ball and that undisciplined with the ball, I think there's only so much UConn's going to be able to do, right? Like
So
I think you
So
can
Rob, can I
live.
just push? Can I just
Yeah,
push
yeah,
back
go ahead.
because I like to me this is a huge talking point in this game. Silas turned the ball over 9 times against St. John's in that first game. St. John's got him to turn the ball over 10 times when they played him in the Bahamas when they
Mhm.
played Georgia the year before, right? So his two worst turnover games happen against St. John's. Rick Pitino said today before the game that we play physically and like we don't think that we have something scouted against them. Obviously, he wouldn't say if they did something specific, but like they just think that he's had trouble with their physicality. Now, St. John's has the number one rated defense in the Big East since conference play started. They're
Mhm.
giving up just 69 points per game to opponents in their last 10 conference games. And they just came off of a game where Rick Pitino said they've played their best defense of the year, holding Creighton to 52 points, who just came off of beating UConn in their
Oh,
own
and
gym.
when they score against UConn,
Yeah, I
they
think like
and
90.
they put up 91 points on
Right.
UConn at UConn,
So
and they
like
put up
Rob, like
52 on St. John's at St. John's.
but like my question honestly goes back to Silas. And you know, Dan Hurley kind of called him out and said that some of his turnovers were because they're careless and they're avoidable. Do you think that maybe because Silas has had two of his really bad games against St. John's and that pressure, does he come out and is he a little bit tight, knowing that, listen, maybe I don't have it against these guys? Does he try and be a little bit more of a playmaker than trying to, I don't know, maybe get into the mix and not cause so many turnovers?
So the turnovers that he had, the a lot, I think three of them were where he was like trying to get the play set up, and it was Dylan Darling like timing it up and waiting to put the ball down and diving in there and going for the loose ball. And Dylan's really good at that stuff. There were a couple of bad passes that he made, but it's the physicality. I don't know if it's a mental thing because I actually thought like let's take away the turnovers, right?
Hmm.
That was one of Silas's better offensive games outside of that. He was able to get to the rim. He was able to get paint touches. He had the dunk on, was it Zuby that
Oh,
the dunk on
oh,
Zuby?
one of the
He was
dunks of
able,
the year in the Big East.
yeah, he was able to get to the free throw line. He was efficient shooting the ball, not efficient as a playmaker, but he was efficient shooting the ball, especially in the second half. And um, I think that was the reason why it's a weird way to look at the game, but the reason why UConn was able to make that comeback in the second half was Silas Demery. The reason
Hmm.
they had to make that comeback was Silas Demery. So like,
Yeah.
is it an issue with the turnovers? Is he the reason why they were able to come back? Like it's a lot of the stuff that they do, and yes, part of it is the physicality, but it's just sloppy. Like that is to me the Achilles heel of this UConn team is that the way that they've been built, it's offensively the stuff's got to be crisp, it's got to be sharp, it's got to be timing. It is making sure that when you're coming off those screens, it's coming off at the right angle. You're setting the screen at the right angle. It's when you're slipping at the right moment so that the guy that is supposed to be hedging on that screen is able to step out and you have the wide open leg. It's all about timing. It's all about being disciplined and it's all about being really, really crisp and just drilling that over and over and over
Hmm.
and over and over again in practice. And the flaw for this group is some of the undisciplined turnovers and some of the undisciplined fouls. And that's where, because I don't think from a talent perspective or an ability perspective, the difference between this group and the teams that won the championship is as vast as the product that we're seeing on the floor, if that makes sense. The 2024 team was absurd. They had four NBA players. This group has probably, I would say, probably two, maybe three guys that I feel good about playing in the league, and a couple more that will probably have a chance to be able to get there.
Hmm.
Right, that will be one of those guys where you look up in 4 years and like, oh, he's played 23 games in the NBA, and after spending 2 years in the, you know what I'm saying, right? And I don't think the talent gap is as big as the gap that's on the floor. And that's because what we're seeing is a bunch of guys that are not doing the things that you're necessarily required to do for UConn to be at the level that you need to be at. And I think that that is a little bit more exposed when you're playing in a system and playing for a program that relies on the detail, the execution of the details to a certain degree. Like you can kind of get away with that a little bit with a team like St. John's because um, that most of what the stuff that they do best is like the physicality defensively, the turnovers, and using those turnovers and the fact that you're so good on the glass to be able to create easy shots either off the offensive rebounds or off of getting out in transition. A lot of what they do offensively is just kind of like I call it the do him offense, right? Where you find a way to be able to get a matchup that you like and then let your player go out and try to win that matchup. You know what I mean? So it's if they're not perfect on the offensive end of the floor, like it's not going to hurt them that much because sometimes their best shot is going and getting the offensive rebound. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Whereas this UConn team, the fact that they're a little bit undisciplined compared to what they've been in the past, those issues get exposed a little bit more because of the way that the two teams are built. Does that make sense? I feel like I just talked myself in circles there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But I think that it kind of leads you into one of the issues that, we saw in the first game, and that was, the free throws and, what's UConn gonna do to change what happened, obviously, at the Garden. Now, Rob, I'm gonna throw it back at you. I know I'm kind of taking your role, but like the whistle, right? The whistle was something that everybody complained about, but St. John's is, if you're a smart basketball fan, you know how physical St. John's is. You know how they are sixth. They're tied for sixth in the country right now at free throw attempts per game with 27.1. And
Mhm.
UConn is 279th in the country with 18.2. I'm genuinely curious. Do you think the whistle is going to play a factor in Hartford? Do you think that that is going to be a good thing or a bad thing? And like UConn went 5 of 12 from the free throw line. Only two guys took free throws in that game.
Oh, you got to make free throws. The free throw thing is always going to be, to me, it's a little bit of a I don't, it's a red herring, the right phrase, a false equivalent.
Mhm.
This UConn team is not built to get to the line, right? They only have two guys that really are built to to draw fouls. So much of what they do is like they run that free flowing offense stuff, and they're trying to get like solo ball coming off of a screen and getting them a catch and shoot three. Or
But like,
Braylon
don't you
Mullins.
don't you think that like that's a problem against the St. John's team, the way that they play? I mean, if the response
Well,
to that is
the
St. John's
issue
going to the line 31 times.
the issue where the whistle comes in is that and it's part of why I think this specific iteration of UConn has struggled in the Big East more than they struggle in non-conference. And that's because there's a level of physicality that goes that's you're allowed to play with in conference. And when so much of what UConn does is the free-flowing offense, like when you're getting bumped and you're getting grabbed and you're getting held, it's a lot more difficult to have that timing and have that rhythm offensively. You know what I mean? And it's like that in every conference, in every league, and everywhere that you play. And then you throw in the fact that most of these coaches know what UConn's trying to do and have
Mhm.
seen it, and the teams that they're playing have experienced playing against it, and they know the things that they can do to stop it. It makes it much more difficult to be able to do what you want to do when you're this UConn team and you play the way that they do than it is when you play in non-conference and like Illinois has never seen this before, and Florida's never experienced how you have to guard this stuff
Right.
before, and Kansas they played them, but it's like it's very different when you're playing this UConn team versus playing what you know in the Big 12
Mhm.
and the teams that you played in the Big 12. So to me, the whistle is not whether or not they get to the foul line. The whistle will be what are they calling off the ball and how much of like the holding and the grabbing and the chuck and cutters, how much of that stuff is allowed because in Big East play, you're allowed to be a lot more physical off the ball than you are in the tournament. And then what we saw in non-conference play. So that's
Sure.
where the whistle comes in. This team is like they're just it's one of the talking points that gets me the most frustrated with like the way that like some of the feedback that I get on some of the stuff that I say about this is because this team's not built to get to the free throw line. It's just they're built to allow three elite shooters to get open catch and shoot threes in solo ball, Braylon Mullins and Alex Carabin.
Yeah.
If they're struggling, it's because those three guys aren't making the open catch and shoot threes that this offense is designed to get them. It's not because UConn's not getting foul calls or not getting to the free. They're just not built like jump shooters are not going to get to the free throw line all that often. It's just by
Yeah.
nature.
But like Rob,
Whereas
like in our first game, the big talking point out of it was like the disparity in the free throws, right? Why was St. John's St. John's got a favorable whistle? The Big East refs are giving it to St. John's, but I think that it becomes like more glaring of an issue when UConn plays like that and
yes,
obviously isn't trying to get those fouls and St. John's does and that's been their style. So like sure it makes it look like there's a unfavorable whistle in air quotes, but like it's such a
I don't
contrast
think it was
in play styles.
unfavorable.
It
The
wasn't
oth-
at all in my opinion.
the,
I
the
mean,
other part of it is like the I think the disparity of that game. How many free throws did they make at the end as UConn was fouling and trying to? I think there was probably like 8 free throws that they
yeah, it's like
got
six
right.
to eight, something like that.
Yeah, so the disparity is probably not as big as it seems when you look at the final box score. And St. John's Russell, like they just get to the paint, man. Like that's kind of what they got big, strong dudes
But
that
it's
can
every
get to the
game.
paint.
It's
Yeah.
every game. That's what they do.
Yeah, it's what they do. It's like how it's how they're built. Like
Yeah.
they're the question that we had coming into the season for St. John's was like, how are they going to make enough threes to be able to give themselves the driving lanes, right?
Which is a
And they
problem right now.
yeah, and so they've done that to a point where they've been good enough to win what they have to be able to win and score what they need to be able to score. Whereas with UConn, it's like, okay, you have all these shooters, but like what happens when they put the ball on the floor and get to the paint? And it's Silas, who's the guy that can get to the lane and get a paint touch and kind of collapse the defense. And it's Terrace Reed. And the problem with this matchup with Zuby is that they're kind of like it's strength on strength, right? Neither of these guys are Donovan Clingan.
Mhm.
Neither of these guys are. or a Daimara, right? What they are is they're like 6'10", kind of land warriors. That the advantage that they have is their ability to be strong, their ability to use their leverage, and the fact that like nobody can move them. But it just so happens that like Zuby's strong enough to move Terrace Reed, and
Mhm.
Terrace Reed in theory is strong enough to move Zuby. Zuby got the better of him in the first game. I think to me there's two keys, right? There's two really really important matchups that
Yeah, let me
UConn
hear
has
it.
to win. The first one is Silas against whoever is guard. Like Silas, if St. John's, I think that if UConn is going to win, there has to be like a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio for Silas, whether that's 8 assists and 4 turnovers, 6 assists and 3 turnovers. Like that, that's kind of the number that I have in my head when it comes to what he has to be limited to.
Do you feel like that's a big ask?
I feel like if UConn is a championship caliber team, then that is not a big ask. And if UConn is just a good Big East team, then that is a big ask. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
Silas,
but again, we're
Silas.
talking about a guy who just turned the ball over 7 times against Villanova
Mhm.
and against St. John's had nine. I mean, that's listen. I agree with you. If he keeps the ball in his team's hands, that's obviously going to be much a clearer path to victory.
He should be.
That
He should
that
be
sounds
getting.
like a big ask if we're just looking at how he's played overall.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, that's kind of
And
his
and, and listen, I don't want that to sound like I'm knocking the guy. The guy is first team
it,
Big East. I think
it
he's
deserves it
incredible.
deserves to be knocked, right? Like it
It's
deserves to
just
be
a fact. I mean,
questioned.
listen, it's a fact in my opinion.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same game parlays, best in class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Big news, guys. Cash App just released a new status program for the way people actually spend called Cash App Green. It unlocks new ways for you to pay, get rewarded, and easily grow or manage your money on your terms. Now, when you spend at least $500 a month with the Cash App card or Cash App Pay, you earn green status, which unlocks benefits like up to $200 of free overdraft coverage, higher borrow limits, and custom personalized cashback offers every Friday at places that you love to shop. Turn everyday spending into status with Cash App Green. Download Cash App today or visit cash.app/new to learn more about this and other great features launching now. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use Cash App 10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank member FDIC. Cash App Green, overdraft coverage, borrow, cashback offers, and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosure. Taking care of your mental health shouldn't be harder than taking care of your physical health. Get rid of the long wait lists and expensive appointments with Rula, where the average session copay is just $15 and every therapist on the platform is licensed, vetted, and picked for their expertise. You're talking to someone legit, not just someone who is available. You just answer a survey and you get connected with a therapist that fits your needs. Go to rula.com/F68. That's RULA.com/F68 and take control of your mental health. When you have the results that he's had in some of those matchups, that is what's going to get highlighted,
Mhm.
right? Like that's what's going to get called out. And if you can't handle that being called out, like be better about it. Like
Protect the ball. Yeah.
don't turn the ball over
Yeah.
9 times. No, I think that's the big one. Like he's got to be able to win that turnover battle. And I kind of think that he will. Like I'm expecting this to be one of those moments where it's like, ah, shit, we all forgot about how good this Silas
Yeah,
guy is.
I hope not.
And then the other battle is Terrace Reed against Zuby. Like I thought Terrace played, he was fine. Like he wasn't bad. That wasn't one of his bad games. It wasn't one of his great games. He was actually kind of more effective defensively than I remembered him. Like when I went back and kind of watched the film over, he was a little bit better than I thought, just kind of watching it in person. But like Zuby was 21, 10, 7, 3, and 2. Like that was it. And he had a huge three. Like that's the other part about it. Him, Bryce, and Dylan both hit like huge threes when
Well,
UConn was
Dylan
making that
didn't.
run of the second half. And Dylan had like he had another, he was so good in those last 20 minutes, man. Like it makes me mad thinking about it. Like,
But
it
I
really
mean, the other
does.
part is that like Taris got in foul trouble, and that
Mhm.
was a point of emphasis. Like they wanted Taris to either get on that free throw line and shoot those free throws and miss, and he went 2 of 6 from the line, or they wanted to pick up those fouls and have him sit on the bench. And it happened early in the game where they went at him. There was a
Mhm.
handful of times where Hurley had to go to Eric, and Eric did not look good in that game.
You know what's
He
funny about that? Like Ryba didn't play great in that matchup, but in the 5 games since then, he's actually been like really effective. And even before that game, he was
yeah
really, really good too. I think my guess is that he is a freshman that walked into that kind of environment and a game with that level of physicality, and it's not something that he's seen since the non-conference. And I think that it was just kind of like a little bit of a like
mhm.
cold water on the face. I think so.
I mean, would it surprise anybody if he has a pretty decent game tomorrow in more friendly confines? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets like 8 points and like 5 rebounds or something like that.
Yeah, he needs to have a better game, and a lot of it is because so some of the defensive issues that UConn has had, and there was like a 4 week stretch where they went from being a top 5 defense to I think in that stretch from the what was it? But let me bring up the schedule. Hold on, real quick, so I make sure that I quote this right. If you go from after the Xavier game, so like February 4th through after the Creighton game, UConn was 169th in defensive efficiency according to Torvik in that window. Uh, but prior to that, they were a top 5 defense in America.
Yeah.
Then after that, they gave up 63 points and 63 possessions to Villanova on the road, and like Villanova scored 11 points in the last minute and a half when that game was over. Like that was the best defense we've seen UConn play maybe all season long.
Mhm.
So a lot of that had to do with the fact that Ryba is a much he's more disciplined and better positionally than Terrace Reed is. And I think that we're going to see a little bit of that on uh,
Okay.
on Wednesday night. So we'll see, man. It's just they got to be ready for the fight. Like the bottom line is this, right? And you tell me you think this is crazy.
Mhm.
I think UConn's got to be ready for the fight.
Mhm.
St. John's was ready for the fight in the first game, and I think UConn had a couple guys that showed up, and then the bench came in, and it kind of spiraled against them, and it took a little while for them to get back into it, and then down the stretch, they went from they were down 10, and I think they cut it to 2
Yep.
on a couple different occasions, right? At one time they had the ball down 2,
Yep. And St. John's
and
answered every time.
yep, and St. John's had to answer every time. So um, you got to be ready for the fight, and the guys coming in off the bench got to be ready for the fight.
S-
And
s- So
go
yeah, I
ahead.
mean, listen, I agree with you. St. John's, I don't think is going to change anything in the sense that they're going to try and be that physical again, and they're going to try
Mhm.
and get them into foul trouble again. The thing is that if they are that physical, then Dan's going to have to look down that bench and who can he rely on? Like I know Jaden Ross has been playing better of late. Jalen Stewart can be the guy that they look to for some size if they want to go big. Now, Rick Pitino
I
said
think
he
it's I
thinks,
think it's Jaden Ross. Like Jaden Ross is the
yeah,
like if you're trying to match up with Dylan Mitchell, which is good, like one of the if Mitchell's playing the 3 and you got like Solo or Braylon on him, that is a huge like they went
yeah,
at that like the first 5
yeah.
possessions of the game. Like that's what they targeted. They're
But
like, oh,
so Rick today,
we got this
Rick
6 foot.
today
Go
literally
ahead.
said, he's like, I think what UConn's going to do different is they're going to go big. So like where does what changes there? I mean, is it going to
So
be Silas and then is it Ross and then Caravan? Who are what's the combo to go big, and like do you think that's going to work?
I think that it will work because Jaden Ross is I think you guys will see it, right? Like people that watch UConn have seen it. I don't know people that don't watch UConn as much as we do have seen it.
Mhm.
Jaden Ross can be an absolute lockdown defender, right? That is the reason why people have been so excited about this dude since he got on campus is because he is a lockdown defender. The issue is how much are you giving up on the offensive end with him out there? As a
Yeah.
freshman, it was everything. Like he
Hmm.
was not ready. As a sophomore, he was getting closer, but you could see the confidence wasn't there. And early on this season, when the confidence clicked, like he had a couple games where he knocked down three threes. Like he just started looking like a guy that believed in himself. You know how you can tell when a shooter is feeling good when their misses, like they make threes and then when they miss, it's just off the back rim, but
Hmm.
it's online and it looks good and it feels good and they just hit it off the back rim. It's a little bit
Hmm.
long. His
That's the Osiris
misses,
Sellers right now for us.
yeah, his misses as a sophomore were like 4 feet over the rim, were like off the side of the backboard. Like they weren't even
Yeah.
close. And you could tell he had no confidence when he was shooting it. And now he's shooting it like a guy that's got confidence. And you're starting to see him earn those minutes defensively because he'll stay in front of his guy. Like at the end of the day, there's enough shooting out there. If one of Solo or Braylon is sitting, you need someone that's going to guard your yard and not let a dude get all the way to the rim. And he's got the length and athleticism to match up with Dylan Mitchell as well as anyone can in the Biggie. Like no one's going
But
to match up with that, but
but
he can get close.
I think you started where I was going to go. Is like if Dan does that, you're sacrificing something on the offensive end.
Mhm.
Can you survive that? I think that's the biggest question. It's like like UConn, I think is going to give up a lot offensively to that, and I think St. John's can handle it defensively given their size and their switchability. It's just like okay, who so then who guards Mitchell? Who guards Caravan? Do you put Caravan on Hopkins? Hopkins is going to eat his lunch.
That's going to be the matchup.
Yeah.
That's
Because
always going to be the
and Hopkins is playing a lot better lately. I mean, just won Big East Player of the Week, averaging
matchup.
19 points per game, playing really, really well. He's the guy that I think is going to go off in this game.
Yeah, that's been a matchup that's been tough for Alex in his career. I actually thought that he was better in the game at the Garden, right? Like Bryce got his, like he got 14 and 6, but again, like if you're I'll live with 14 and 6 out of Bryce. Like that's not what's going to get you beat, right? Going for 27, that'll get you beat.
Yeah. Well, he
Zuby
went for
Ejiofor,
23 and 10 the other day. Like, you can't
yeah,
have that happen.
that'll get you beat. But
Yeah.
if we look up and if it's the same thing as last game and Alex has 17 points and hits a couple threes and Bryce Hopkins has 14 and 6,
Yeah,
like
you're okay with that trade.
he's good, man. Like
Yeah.
if you don't let him go crazy, like that's a win in my book, right? Like he's just that kind of a player. Um,
Also, his last game at People's Bank Arena for people who are going to be going.
that was the
I believe that Caravan's last game is
oh, you're
tomorrow.
right. You're right. That is the
Yeah.
last game he's going to
So
play there. So
maybe some tears flowing in this one. But you know what? One of his first ever games at People's Bank back then, the XL Center, was that win against St. John's. So
yep.
kind of apropos.
Yeah, it is, man. You're putting a bow on a lot of stuff here with it. No, that one's going to be a key matchup too. There's so many like the thing that I love about the way that both of these games have kind of been put together, or both of these teams have been put together, and the way these matches play out, is you have two coaches that are kind of like they're similar in the way that they carry themselves, right? Like they're self-deprecating, massive egos that know how good they are, that have the results to back it up, and are both from that tri-state area where they're not afraid to talk a little bit of shit, right? Like
Hmm.
they know how good they are. They will tell you how good they are because they've seen how good they are, and they're not afraid to live with that confidence. But the way that they build their teams is, 4 years ago, what Dan did was a lot more similar to what Rick's doing now, in that he was building a team that's going to be defense first, rebounding first, transition first, and then figure it out offensively. And in the last 4 years, he's turned into, we're skill, we're timing based, we're execution based, and we're going to be really good positionally, defensively. Maybe not the greatest when it comes to, pressing and trapping and forcing turnovers and being in transition. It's not, they're closer right now to what Virginia was in the height of the Tony Bennett era than they are what Dan Hurley was when he was getting to UConn and those first couple of tournament teams. So,
Yeah, no, I think that Rick did it, kind of sequentially similarly. He just flipped. I think he went offensive more this year because he
yeah.
learned from last year's mistakes. And St. John's was scoring, 95 a game early on. Everybody's wondering about the defense. They can't stop anybody early on. And we kept hearing Rick say over and over again, he's like, 8 new guys, 8 new guys, 8 new guys. They got to figure it out. Give them time. And then sure enough, they eventually did. But I said this on my podcast, like we've got 3 years of proof of concept now at St. John's of
Mhm.
Rick's style and system. Like you can't
It
overreact
works.
early on, and like,
It works, man.
hey, the guys on field of 68, like you guys can't say that St. John's is this horrific team in at the end of November,
They were
because eventually they figure it out.
they were a mess for a little while.
They
Like
were,
especially on
they
the
were.
they couldn't keep anybody out of the paint. And now
Rob, you
go
know
ahead.
what? That brings me to my one big talk point that I really wanted to ask you about, and just bear with me here because I really wanted to talk to you about this. Look at UConn's last 7 games. You got the two blowouts that started everything, and everybody's saying,
Mhm.
all right, the offense is kind of coming back. Then they play St. John's, and St. John's holds them to under 70 basically the entire game. They struggled with Butler and Georgetown, and then win. They lose to Creighton, then they beat Nova. You want to talk about what you just said, right? The struggling and how bad St. John's was to start. Would you not rather do that than be this inconsistent right now than that UConn is right now? Like I
Yes.
feel like UConn is
Yes.
pretty like that's the one word to really use UConn right now. And obviously like they're awesome, right? 25-3, 15-2. Like what are we're really splitting hairs. But like there's a level of inconsistency right now with UConn and how they're playing. And what's crazy to say is that there's a realistic conversation right now that if St. John's continues to play this way, if they get a win on Wednesday and potentially also run the table for the rest of conference play, and they meet up again in Saturday at the Big East tournament, that we're talking about, despite
Mhm.
UConn's incredible resume with wins over BYU, Illinois, Kansas, Florida, Texas, and Nova twice, that St. John's could, despite that poor start, hop UConn not only on a seed line, but they could also ranking wise, like it is a little far fetched. Like, but if St.
No,
John's
they
gets
could.
another win against them on Wednesday, and then possibly does it for a third time, it's on the table, which is crazy because St. John's was 9-5 to start the year with and beat nobody. Like they're
Were they in the reveal? They were
no,
the they
no,
were
they
the
I think
seventh.
that they were probably it was Alabama was first, then it was Arkansas, and I think that St. John's was one of the two after that.
Yeah, because I think we actually had them on feeling the 68 as a 4 seed. But look, it's the with how fast and quick the games come when you get to March, like seed lines can get completely flipped
Yeah.
on their head really quickly. And so I don't think it's out of the question. The big, yes, I would much rather be in the situation where St. John's is, where you struggle a little bit in November, and then all of a sudden you're rolling when you
Yeah.
get to February. Then
You deal
the
with the
team that
overreactions in
the
November and December.
yeah, then the team that like looks really good in November and December, and then we keep saying we just gotta wait for them to click. We just gotta wait for them to click. Well, we waiting for 2 fucking months, man. Where's this fucking clicking? Can I get
Yeah.
some clicks? I need some clicks over here.
Where's the point guard? There's
Yeah,
Big Bells, Dylan Darling. He was just waiting his time.
yeah. The church bells, Dylan
That's
Darling.
right.
That's one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard. No, I look I think some of that was, I think, more injury related than people are than you kind of let on. The Caravan wasn't right for a little
Okay.
while, and I think that was part of it. I think some of it was, I don't know. I don't know how much vocal leadership there is on this team. Like in 2023, Andre Jackson would there's a great story that goes around about what he did in the locker room in a game at Seton Hall after they blew a game at Seton Hall, and how that kind of reinvigorated this team. Um, and the year after that, it was Cam Spencer, and everyone knows what Cam Spencer was when it came to being that like vocal. We're not letting this slip away. Like
Hmm.
I don't know if they had that vocal alpha. They got a lot of guys that are really good and a lot of guys that are kind of lead by example. And I don't know if they have anyone that is a player that is going to be willing to go and cuss somebody out if they do something wrong. And I think that kind of leads to a team where the issue to me is that when things start spiraling, it's really hard to stop the spiral, right? Like 2 or 3 years ago, they'd have a couple possessions go wrong, you call a timeout, then you fix it. And now it's
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 possessions of struggles turns into 5 or 6 minutes of struggles. And all of a sudden, instead of, having 2 possessions and you fix it, you give up like what was it, a 13-1 run in the first half to St. John's, and then there was like a 9-0 run in the second half. And that's what kills you, is that instead of being they score 6 straight, you score 12 straight. And I think that's where they kind of get themselves in trouble, especially at the end of games. I thought that they played pretty well against Butler, actually. Like the offense was rolling against them. That was just a kind of a slow, grinded out road game in the Big East. In the Georgetown game, they looked really, really good for 25 minutes, and then they forgot how
Mm-hmm.
to play defense.
Yep.
And then against Creighton, they just didn't guard anybody. We like when you have Josh Dix and Fedor Zugic driving straight lines and getting to the rim and finishing, like you
Yeah,
just had it's just
that was
one
really
nice.
surprising to see them play like that, especially defensively at home. I mean, uh, I'm shocked Dan didn't get a technical in that game. He was beside himself.
There was a look. So he was mad, but I could tell that it was a different kind of mad because
Mhm.
he was not as demonstrative on the sideline. It was one of those ones where he's folding his hands like this, and he's more frustrated with his guys
Mm.
than he is with the way that the call is. So I that one was one where it was like, there's something going on there because I've seen that like that 40-yard stare before, and that's not a good thing to
So let me ask you, like, how encouraged were you with how they responded, against Villanova compared to, how they like, because it's such a stark contrast, I guess, obviously, right? Losing at home to Creighton, and then they come back and get the big win against Villanova. Like, was it a
they
complete mood change for you? Was it like, all right, that was
yes.
obviously an anomaly? Like, what was your
Complete
emotion
vibes
for it? Yeah.
changed. Complete vibes changed because here's the thing. The reason why I was never I never got to the point where I was ready to like hop off the bandwagon because we've seen how good this team can be defensively, right? Like they for the first what was it like first 16 weeks of the season, they were a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
And then they had 2 weeks where and it wasn't even like 2 full weeks. They basically had the second half of Georgetown and Creighton where they looked horrendous, right? They looked as bad as they were last season when it was at the worst points last season. And you come back against Villanova, and we kind of see what you can be defensively. And then the flip of that is on the offensive end of the floor. Like if you go back and you look from the Providence game, so for the last month, they've actually been a top, I think it's 12th offensively, according to Torvik, in that last month. So they've kind of figured things out on that end. So they're getting it going on the offensive end. We've seen how good they can be defensively. I'm not worried about them continuing to do what happened against Creighton because I just don't think that that's going to be accepted at the UConn program. So getting the offense going, plus we've seen the defense be great. I still think it's there, right? Like I'm not ready to hop off the bandwagon. Like you have to keep putting together those performances, right? And you have to string that together, and we have to see it against St. If you're going to win a championship, you beat St. John's on Wednesday. Like that's just
Hmm.
you got to do it. Um, but I wasn't ever really ready to jump off the bandwagon because we saw how good they can be defensively, and we saw them figuring it out on the offensive end of the floor. It's been like one of these. It's not like a straight line going
Yeah.
up the hill. Like St. John's has just kind of been like this steady incline and to the point where they're at their peak right now and they're playing
Yeah.
their best at the most important point in the season. Whereas UConn's been like up, down, up, down. Like what is it? 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or one
Yeah.
step forward, 2 steps back. But it's there. Like it's there.
And
So
like despite that, like obviously, like an incredible non-conference resume, like
mhm.
obviously very battle tested. The numbers are gaudy, 15-2, 25-3. It just it's all about St. John's versus Villanova now. I mean, I'm sorry, it's all about St. John's and
Mhm.
UConn with Villanova kind of, just right on their shoulder and maybe creeping into the conversation. Like you're gonna if St. John's does win on Wednesday. Like that's the conversation that's going to shift to. Like, oh well, is it going to be St. John's versus Villanova now instead of UConn? Because especially because uh, you know UConn proved that they can't do it. Like that's where the conversation is going to kind of turn to. And I don't know if it should, but I know that that's where we're going to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we are. I'm ready for all the storylines to come out of this
Yeah.
game, no matter what. Give me a prediction. Let's put a ball on the list. Give me a prediction.
Here's the prediction.
And I know we need a bold take too. Like we did this last game.
I got you.
Yeah,
Listen, my bold take last time was I almost nailed Zuby
yeah.
Ejiofor's line.
You
So,
were close,
um,
man.
and you
Please don't do
you
that again.
you got me scared because Solo started off and hit a handful of shots, and I'm like, ah, shit, Rob's gonna nail this 28-point prediction on Solo ball. Thankfully, he only had 8 points and not 28. Um, Listen, in good faith, I can't bet against St. John's right now. They
Mhm.
are the second hottest team in the country besides Miami, Ohio, who just won again tonight. I just think that St. John's has proven that they know how to beat this UConn team.
Mhm.
They've got two in a row now, obviously once against a different version, but um, there's a level of confidence right now in that St. John's locker room. And in good faith, I think it's silly to bet against St. John's right now. I think it's going to be very difficult in that arena. I think they're serving like $3 beers or something like that tomorrow and like happy hour all night. It's going to be a well lubricated crowd.
Good. Good.
But I think
Get
St.
them
John's.
fired up, man.
Yeah,
Come on,
it's
get
and
them
then listen,
fired
no
up.
no no complaints from Danny about the crowd after this one. That's going to be for sure. But I just think that St. John's is playing too well right now. I'm so encouraged by the defense. Holding Creighton to 52 points was really encouraging. Ian Jackson will be back for this game. He missed the Creighton game. We'll see what we get from them. But this front court right now, plus Dylan Darling, is leading everything for St. John's. I think St. John's wins by 6, and I think here's the bold prediction. St. John's has been shooting 38.5% from three in the Big East in 8 road games. They've won all of them. At home, they can't hit a damn three-pointer
Mhm.
for some reason. It's very, very weird. St. John's hits 11 threes
11.
on Wednesday night. They shoot 42% from three, and they win the game by 6. That's my bold prediction. Oziah Sellers hits 4 threes. 11 threes for the team, 4 for Oziah Sellers.
So I just
Johnny's win by 6.
I just had to Google it to make sure that you can shoot 42% while making 11 threes. That would be 11 for 26. I just had to make sure because I was like 11 for 25. That's 44%. I wonder if there's if they can act because if they can't possibly shoot 42% from three, then I'm guaranteed to get a win here. So I
Listen, the numbers are so crazy. Home road splits. They're shooting 31% from three during this 13-game winning streak. They're 78 for 238, which is insane. They've only attempted 18, but something has to change in this game from how they approached it in that first one. And I think that the 3-point line is going to be something that St. John's possibly looks at to try and neutralize that advantage of the home court. It's going to be loud in there. How do you silence a road crowd? You got to hit the three. It's something that St. John's has done well on the road. Again, 38.5% from three in 8 road games that they have won, 8-0 on the road for St. John's. That's where I think is going to be something to watch. And I'm not going to give you another one like Zuby's huge stat line, but I do think I'll give you another one. I think Bryce goes for 22 and 8 rebounds as well.
yeah,
I think
that would
Bryce. I
be
think Bryce has a big game tomorrow.
that would be big. That would be big.
What do you got?
Um,
What do you got for me? Come on.
I'm going. I think that if UConn's going to win, it's going to be lower scoring. So I'm going to say they win 68 to 64.
I think you said this last time.
Yeah, you got to be able to control the tempo against St. John's. You
Okay.
got to be able to make sure that they're not able to get in transition. They don't get easy buckets. They don't get the leak outs. No pick six turnovers. And I'm going to say that there was a moment on January 7th. I don't know if you remember what happened on January 7th, but January 7th was when UConn went into Providence, went into the AMP, got themselves down by 13 at the half, and Silas Demery in the second half put the team on his back. And you remember that meme with Greg Jennings? I put the team on my back, though. So Silas did that. 23 points, 15 assists, just a single turnover, 5 steals, and had everybody sitting here saying that's the best point guard in the Big East
Hmm.
right there.
Hmm.
I don't think we're going to get 23 and 15, but I'm going to say that we get 21 points, 9 assists, just a single turnover. And it's a performance where you say, okay, that's why UConn did what they did to get Silas Demery. That's why they spent the money to make sure
Mm,
that Silas didn't commit to St. John's when he
that's
was
right.
on his visit to come up
That's
the
right.
stores. So I think we get that kind of performance from Silas. And
Rob,
I
I think your
think,
boldest part of that prediction is the one turnover.
yeah, I mean, he's had games where he's done that before. And I think that I think that he heeds the wake up call, and we see something impressive about him. So, um, 68-64. That's my final prediction. So,
All
I
right.
am hoping that I get to experience the emotions that you experienced in the Garden on February 6th. We'll see.
Best
If
game
UConn
I
loses, if
best
UConn
game I've
loses,
ever
you
been to
might
at the
not
Garden. No, 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 no. I'll be texting you really, really, really fast.
no, I know you
Best
will.
best game at the Garden I have been to. That February 6th UConn game. Unbelievably incredible atmosphere. It lived up to all the hype and billing being in that building. Rob, I know you were there. We saw each other and stuff, but like, man, incredible. You couldn't ask for a better storyline and situation going into game 2 on Wednesday night. So much is on the line. Just this is what it's all about. We said that in the first game, but like, man, it couldn't have lined up perfectly. I'm super jacked up for this, man, and it's gonna be fun.
It doesn't get better than this, man. It doesn't get better than this. Listen, David, it's great to see you. You're gonna be hearing this in both of our audio feeds. So
Yes.
please like, rate, review, subscribe anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Do it for Eye on the Storm, do it for Top Dogs, and hopefully, if anything can go right for us, we'll be getting a third one of these on March 14th in the
I
Garden
can't wait.
City.
You can't duck me again. We're gonna have to do it a third time, man.
Look, if UConn loses this game, I might be ducking you. I might be doing it. You might be bad luck, David. So we'll see, man. We'll see. You want a third one? You better start rooting for UConn. There you go. How about that?
Never.